are we working on this list? Do you remember we were previously discussing the conditioning of fear and its counterconditioning? Counterconditioning or fear extinction involves generating a conditioned response that counters the conditioned fear response. Fear extinction or the loss of a fear is a process that consists of a repeated presentation of a conditioned stimulus in the absence of the unconditioned stimulus that used to be previously paired. This results in a decline in the conditioned fear response. In cases of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, the sooner intervention starts to suppress pathological fear responses, the easier it will be to achieve fear extinction. Most behavioral therapies for fear extinction focus on exposure. For instance, therapy for a person with a fear of heights might involve using a ladder repeatedly and taking small steps towards standing on the top step of the ladder. First, the person might stand on the lowest step again and again, day after day, till he feels comfortable to move to the next step a little bit higher. Then, he might climb to the second lowest step of the ladder again and again, until he moves to the third step without fear. This process continues until new fear extinction memories are formed, memories that say, I can climb on the ladder, and if I do everything right, nothing will happen to me. Such new memories serve to contradict the fear of heights that lives in the amygdala. The fear of heights still exists, but the idea is to override that fear with the new memory. It is generally understood that extinction itself does not consist of unlearning the old association between the cue and the outcome. Instead, it is a process of learning a new association between the same cue and the new outcome, or the absence of the old outcome. The old association attempts to predict or expects a certain outcome based on the previous experience, the rewarding or aversive outcome. Discrepancy that occurs when the predicted outcome does not appear eventually leads to the loss of the behavior, new learning, and extinction of a fear. Some studies suggest that fear memories formed by conditioning could be located in the amygdala and then later transferred to the medial prefrontal cortex. On the other hand, fear extinction memories might form in the amygdala but then get stored in the medial prefrontal cortex as well. The assumption behind the described above behavioral therapy is that those new memories that were created by fear extinction and now reside in the medial prefrontal cortex might help to override the conditioned fear memory. Important thing to remember is that these memories have to be converted from a short-term, labile state into a long-term permanent state. A number of studies suggest the involvement of the orbitofrontal area of the brain for fear extinction process. Specifically, it is possible that the orbitofrontal cortex is necessary for extinction by over-expectation. In this regard, the primary function of the orbitofrontal area is to integrate predictions about outcomes coming from multiple sources. The orbitofrontal cortex uses this information to drive learning and gets involved in emotional responses by correcting or disconnecting stimulus reinforcer associations when such associations become inappropriate. Further, the human orbitofrontal cortex is associated with negative feedback, such as pain, and also associated with inhibition of emotions.